A recent opinion piece published in a local newspaper rattled the entire nation. A nuclear specialist with Greenpeace Germany, Shaun Bernie, wrote that Japan is planning to discharge 1 million tons of nuclear wastewater into the Pacific Ocean. To this, the South Korean government has acknowledged that it had been informed of the alleged plan before the issue emerged and had been requesting Japan for a clear explanation ever since. But Japan is yet to make a clarification to South Korea or to the world. Today, we go in depth on this issue that is now gaining more attention as the 2020 Tokyo Olympics draw near. For that, climate and energy campaigner Chang of Greenpeace Seoul joins me in the studio. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us here.
So you're currently engaged in environmental issues as a climate and energy campaigner. For our viewers, could you first briefly introduce yourself and the work you do?
I see. As you mentioned, I'm working at a Greenpeace Seoul office as a climate and energy campaigner. And I'm right now involving in a nuclear reactor project. The Fukushima report and work is our core part of this project. And I'm also involving in preventing such investment from the Korea government into the overseas building coal power plants.
When did Greenpeace first find out about Japan's alleged plan to dump more than 1 million tons of nuclear wastewater into the Pacific Ocean? I mean, if this plan turns out to be true, it'll be life-threatening to all the nations that sit on the Pacific Rim.
Yes, I mean, this is really a serious problem. And for the Greenpeace, it has been the serious problem from, since 2011, when Fukushima accident has, taken place over there. And from then, we have been researching and investigating at the same time. It's not just only about the water issue, but also such area contaminated near to Fukushima in Japan. So while we were looking into such data and documents, research results regarding this contaminated water storing in Fukushima right now, we found such errors in their numbers. So that was the start point that we have been, digging into as the investigation. So while we were doing that, the tritium task force team in Japan, they has been, recommend such agenda and options for the Japanese government regarding managing this contaminated water issue. And they made their recommendation in 2016 as 5 options, including discharging water as the quickest and cheapest option over there. So from that, we thought that, okay, this is already has planned inside because they have never been preparing or announcing the other option than discharging water to the ocean. So we were closely investigating with the Japan office in Tokyo. And also, it was the evidence last year. There were 3 times a public hearing in Tokyo and Fukushima to the community people and fishery regarded local communities. And in the public hearing, TEPCO and Japanese government officials, they introduced the discharging water option as the quickest, cheapest, and best option for all of them. So that actually, obviously shows what's the intention of Japanese government. So that was about it.
So discharging millions of nuclear wastewater into the ocean was presented as a good option, the best option, officially presented within Japan.
And it also, published it into their local papers many times, so many times.
It's quite surprising to me that not many Koreans knew about this until recently when the issue was actually officially presented in Japan several years back. Now, let's talk a bit about the characteristics of nuclear wastewater. What exactly is a nuclear wastewater and why is it increasing in quantity?
Yeah, a little bit of history will help us have this deeper understanding. But let us not so much go into the nuclear scientists, so to speak. I mean, the problem is that when they built this Fukushima Daiichi plant in the 1960s, actually they decided to lower the site near to the ocean, close to the Pacific Oceans, so the cooling water could pump in with the last coast. So the problem there is, if you look at the topography of this Fukushima Daiichi plant, there are enormous amount of groundwater comes from the mountains and also onto the site itself. So they have this groundwater problem since they start operating this Fukushima Daiichi plant. And as soon as you have these 3 reactors meltdowns, that groundwater, all the portion of it, it becomes contaminated, very much highly contaminated with the radioactivity. So 100 of tons a day in 2011 coming onto the site, becoming really highly contaminated water about there. And so that is why they have this contaminated water issue up till now. So that is the situation, and that will be increasing. I mean, it is increasing while we are talking right now. So this is a really huge problem for the Japan government, not only them, but for us in Korea.
Now, this is certainly a shocking plan that shouldn't and must not be carried out, given the hazardous consequences it could have on the environment and the people. Is this really the best way? I mean, is there any other safer ways to dispose this large, vast amount of nuclear wastewater in Japan?
I mean, the recommendation and suggestion from Greenpeace is that they have to have this long-term storage for this contaminated water, because the problem that Fukushima Daiichi reactor has right now is it will take much more time than we can expect from now on, which means that this contaminated water will keep increasing. But so, I mean, discharging water to the Pacific Ocean cannot be considered as their option. It should be contaminated, and they have to wait until they find some developed technology which will remove those dangerous radioactivity, radio clouds, out of this contaminated water.
But if Japan decides to go ahead and dump millions of nuclear wastewater into the ocean anyway, then we know that the waste wouldn't just stay in one area.
No.
It would move along with carried by the ocean's currents. So it would affect not only Japan and Korea, but all the nations across the Pacific Ocean. How do you gauge the impact if Japan goes ahead with a dangerous plan?
I mean, the first thing that we have to think about and to be stressed is that most vulnerable ones, once this water discharged out to the Pacific Ocean, is the fishery, people living near to the Fukushima Ocean, and also the community living over there, right? So there is the most, dangerous and direct risk out there. And I mean, Pacific Ocean, it is enormous body of the water. So once you discharge the water, which should not be so happen in the future, but once it discharges, it disperses into ocean currents. What is really clear in 2011, once this Fukushima accident has happened over there, a fraction of this discharge. I mean, particularly, we are talking about this radio clouds, cesium-137. This got out from the reactors, and there are some such evidence it flow into our East Sea. So it's very clear that once the water get out from the reactors, it will definitely affect to the ocean. And more dangerous thing that we could think of is that there is no such, measurement to be sure about what will be real impact, once they discharge this water, because the ocean is really huge. And this radio clouds, once it touches or get in your body, the reaction should be very much different. So there is no specific or viable measurements which can prove that this will be safe for the people and those are fishes in the maritime, in the seas, into actually.
So
that's basically the truth.
Very horrifying and serious uncertainties we will be facing if Japan goes ahead with the plan. Now, the Korean government filed an official complaint by summoning Japan's economic minister at the Japanese embassy, Tomofumi Nishinaga.
Yes.
But many point out that Korea alone will not be able to effectively resolve this issue. Are there any international laws that's legally binding that could perhaps stop Japan from carrying out this plan?
Well, important thing is that Korean government should utilize this international society. They can speak out about this problem. Towards this whole world. Basically, such international organization like IMO, International Maritime Organization, and there are also meetings coming up in this year, IAEA, and also UN meetings as well. There are plenty of opportunity for Korean government to raise these issues to the international society. So, unfortunately, there is no specific legal binding, law or such compact on this, but it's obviously violent to those compacts that we had this promise that contaminated water with the radioactive or any kinds of wasted from the nuclear cannot be just discharged to the environment like this. So this is a serious problem that we have this right to raise these issues to the international society. So what Greenpeace suggests to our government is that first you have to utilize this opportunity to what is really our concerns on this. And secondly, Korea government could be the the front line raising these issues in international society, which has no knowledge as much as we have and no concern as much as we have. But Korea government and people over here, if they raise the issues, the world will looking at us what is the real problem.
Now, the 2020 Tokyo Olympics is drawing near, and the Korean government is openly voicing concerns about the safety of our athletes, while some Koreans are just openly boycotting the games altogether. How is Greenpeace assessing the safety of the upcoming Olympic Games?
Yesterday, one of the broadcasts in Korea, they went to these Olympic sites and show you the dangerous and horrifying numbers, which means that it cannot be said as a safe place to go or staying. But as I mentioned, the most vulnerable people are not the athletes, but people who are living there. But still, it's not safe. Also Greenpeace is really. What's important for us is our data, as the result of research and investigation. So up to now, we haven't really visited Olympic sites, so we cannot say with our data specifically, but it's surely very much concerned. And since we have some time to raise these issues directly to the Japanese government, we have to raise all the issues that we have right to do. That's our opinion.
Well, a very, very worrisome issue indeed, especially for the people of Korea. I'm afraid that is all the time we have for you tonight. Thank you so much, Ms. Chang, for coming in and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you very much.
And that does it for this edition of News in Depth from all of us here at Arirang. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you right back here, same time tomorrow.